Hello and good morning, and welcome to In the News with myself, Savvy Sapphire. Welcome to the 21st of February already. How has your weekend been? Last week saw some horrendous weather. We had storms. I had a fight with the wind, trying to get down a gazebo, injuries, as you can see. Yeah, I had a horrendous time with the weather last week, but it just goes to show how the weather can turn on you at any point. What was your disasters last week? Did fences go? I know on quite a few of my properties, the fences went even into the back, into the neighbour's garden as well. Pots flew around, and I was ducking a black bucket. To be quite honest, it was flying around in the garden while I was out there trying to lock down everything. So, how was your stormy day? Tell me your stories. And has your properties fared from it as well? Has your fences gone? What is it that you have got any funny stories about the weather? Um, Share with us. I would love to hear what you have to say. And good morning. Welcome to In the News with Savvy Sapphire. If you've got any comments or you just like to drop by to just say hello, don't forget to leave your name so I can directly say hello to you. So, what have we got in the news today? We've got quite a few things today. I want to raise some points. This is property news, which I bring to you each and every week. It's different news from different news streams. I collate all the data together just to bring you up to date what's in the investment realm, finance, or even government, just so you get an idea of what's out there. And if you want more information, please feel free. Our contact is scrolling across the bottom. Reach out to us and we'll be happy to assist you. So in finance and mortgages, mortgage choices have fallen, but does this mean that the housing market is retreating as well? After a long period of improving on mortgage rates, the level of product choices has also dropped. February has seen mortgage availability fall in the first 18 months. So it's fallen by 38 in a number of deals available to borrow. That's 5,356. However, when compared to 2 years ago, there is currently more products on the market of 280, sorry. While fixed rate mortgages prices is not intrinsically linked to the change in the Bank of England base rate, prior to this decision to double base rate to 0.50% last week, it has been recorded an increase of 0.1%. The average, the 60% loan to value tier saw the largest monthly rise, with the 2 and 5 year average going up as well by 0.09% and 0.08% as well, to 1.82% and 2.06% respectively. In fact, since October, the lower loan to value average rates has far outpaced the overall average rates increase, as providers seem to have made their most competitive pricing decisions in the top level loan to value brackets of late. So, what's happening in avenues? There's a surge of office demands again. Now, everyone assumed, like over the period that we was in lockdown and going through this whole episode of COVID, a lot of people were giving up their office space, primarily because they didn't feel that it was worth having an office space, obviously, during lockdown. And this has led to a lot of spaces, people not renewing their leases, people not renewing their rents as well, and has saw the high street kind of desolate and was getting back into that realm where it was desolate. However, there is a huge demand again. 54% of the high street demand now back for high street property to rent out for offices, which is good news because once we've got that going again, it really allows us to have the high street looking like it's doing something. It's not desolate. And if it's somewhere's desolate, no one wants to live there. I mean, who wants to live in a place where it's not even operational? No one. So when you've got these office spaces going out, not only is it showing that the economy is improving for businesses, but it's also improving the high street as well. What do you think about that? Do you think that the high street in your area has been desolate? Would you like it to come back to life? The only thing that is different here is that there was a lot of opportunities for those who wanted to do commercial conversions and using their PD rights. So this was another way of actually people looking at commercial properties and being able to use commercial properties to change to resis as well. So if they're getting rented back out for its current use, preferred use, then that kind of limits the market or the stock for commercial uses. What do you think about that? Would you do a commercial to resi conversion? I've always liked those conversions because they're the best ones, especially if the deal actually works out and stacks. It really is a good way to get into it. In avenues, Labour calls foreign owners property to register. Now, why do you think that they want them to register? Well, Sadiq Khan says wants the government to put a stop to capital being used for international money laundering. He urges ministers to draw up a register of UK properties owned by overseas individuals and companies, which could be sheltering billions of pounds worth of uncleared funds. Many of these properties in London are also left empty and unused, approaching 250,000, that's quarter of a million, properties in England and Wales are now registered with overseas-based buyers, a figure which has swelled from as few as 88,000 in 2010. London now accounts for 85,451 property titles held by foreign individuals or companies. As of earlier this month, land registry data collated by Transparency Transparency International recorded 41,631 offshore companies holding assets in the Greater London. What do you think about that? Good morning, Catherine. Lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining me. What do you think about that? Foreign people, I don't like to call them foreign, I think that's an insult to be quite honest, but international investors coming over to the UK and buying property. What is your thoughts around that? Do you think that people should look at having a register so they can register their interest over here so we're aware of it? Or should it be just be left to them to declare where their funds is coming from? There needs to be some form of balance, I think. And yes, there's a level of transparency that can be done as well. But when you're buying over here, all the due diligence through legal should be done anyway for when the money's been transferred and things like that. So if that's not being done, is those due diligence left to the law? So what's your opinion on this? I have mixed feelings about this. I feel that if you're going to have investors coming from abroad and boosting our economy, irrespective of whether the properties are left empty or not, how's their imbalance? It's basically, I understand the money laundering side, and no one wants money laundering to happen in their country. However, that, as I said, it's supposed to have gone through a legal route in the first instance. So do we have to question how the finances are being transferred? Do we have to question how the lawyers are dealing with these transactions as well? When it comes to real estate, investment should be open to all. I've always encouraged students to go and invest abroad as well. I have investments abroad, and I just think at the end of the day that it's a nice portfolio when you can invest in the UK or invest abroad. Diversify your portfolio. So are we now going to go into different countries and be judged in the same way? I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Please feel free to share. Basically, they said the truth is that property in London plays a central role in harbouring illicit funds from around the world, which is also results in many properties being left empty and unused at a time when Londoners are struggling to afford a home to buy or rent. I don't think people having homes and bought their homes over here has anything. There's no I don't believe there's any synergy between people not being able to afford the rent or buy buy or rent properties here. What is your opinion on this? Do you think there is something in there where it does hinder someone from renting a property if people from abroad have bought? I'm on the cusp with that one. Anyway, in other news, the top London boroughs home buyers are flocking to. London letting an estate agent Benham and Reeves recently revealed which boroughs in the capital have the highest level of home buyer demand. Residential transactions data from the land registry was analysed to underline which areas in the UK, in London namely, was had the most largest uplift in property transactions over the last year. Boroughs with the largest level of activity of London property sales were recorded as a percentage. And this percentage is basically saying the research shows that in 2001, 84,000 homes sold across London, and these transactions leveled have remained. Redbridge, I know Redbridge very well, had the highest increase in transactions in 2021 compared to 2020. The popular borough in East London experienced 17% more transactions, having Havering and Enfield, know those two, I've got property in Enfield as well, lovely area, had an increase of 13.9%. Merton increased 13.7%, and Kingston increased by 12.8%. The directors concludes the London market has quickly ticking over while the rest of the UK is becoming booming. But it certainly looks as though in 2022, this year, it's regaining its pace as well in the markets. And those properties that or those areas that we didn't normally think was, booming are the ones that are coming up, are the ones that people are looking at, because it's just outside of central London and easily transported into London. They've got great transport links that you can get in. A number of the boroughs have already jumped the gun with the return to form, enjoying considerable uplifts, which is good news, in transactional volumes in 2021 when compared to the previous year. This is very interesting, as unusually these are areas of really strong. However, the impact of the pandemic remains clear, with the majority of the market actively remaining largely focused around the capital boroughs, with activity starting to move slowly back towards the centre of the capital. Well, I mean, if you had a preference, where would you love to live? I mean, given everything that's happened over the last 2 years, where would be your preference to live? I live outside of London now. I'm in the Kent area, and I love it here. I call it country because it feels like country. And every time I'm coming down to London, I'm going to London like I'm some far place. But where would you like to live? And this is my ideal place because it is quiet. I love it. It's more open space around here as well. So where would your ideal place be to live? Do you want to look to live in central London? Or are you just saying, you know what, I'm happy to move out because it's easier to move out now? So share with me where you would prefer to live. Oh, Kath, you live in Kent as well. Brilliant. I won't say it here on open line, but I will message you and tell you whereabouts in Kent that I actually live. But I love it. I absolutely love Kent, and it's such a pleasant place as well. All right, Kath said she's visited the Cotswold, and I'm thinking of finding somewhere rural. I have always had a love for rural. I had this imagination when I was growing up. I'll tell you a short story. I wanted to build a house in a massive acres of land in the middle of it, put my house, and I've always said because I could go out and scream and I could just be me. However, when you get to my age, and I'm not that old, but when you start to get older, you start to consider about medical, and you start to consider how far is the doctors, how far is the hospital, how far is the shops, all these things you start to consider. So when I started to really look into, if I bought this land and built a house in the middle of nowhere, how quick could I get to the hospital? And to be quite honest, that's what's actually put me off of actually buying land in the middle of nowhere. Uh, yeah, I love the countryside. Good morning, Maureen. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I love being in the countryside. Absolutely love going for walks. I had another person, and I'm gonna call her. I'm not gonna say her surname, but Janice advised me and my daughter where to go for walks and things like that, and different sites. And it was so interesting over last year to explore different things, and really loved her recommendations that she gave to us as well. It was really nice to see the UK in a different way as well, but I absolutely adore the countryside. But just as I'm going up in the years, I don't feel comfortable with actually going out there and living in the middle of nowhere and feeling vulnerable that I can't get. Could I get an ambulance there as quick? 'Cause I've got underlying illnesses, and I've always been kind of vocal about that. But I love it. I want to scream. I want to have a good laugh. So tell me, where would you want to live, and why? Is it your dream home? Would you be building it, or would you want it done for you? Um, Maureen says yes, she loves the countryside as well. Yeah, I think a lot of people do. If you're a city person, just a city person. I know my sister could not do countryside at all. I mean, even when I was in Jamaica and I lived in Jamaica, I lived country. And it was like an hour and a half from the main town where my sister lived. And yet she just found it like you're in countryside, and it wasn't that even that far. But they see it as countryside, and town people don't like to go country. They just think it's so far, and it's like an hour. Come on, it's like an hour drive from Kent to London. It's not that far. But in Jamaica, they used to call it country, and here where I live now, they call it country. Um, when you see too many trees, that's classified as country. Anyway, I diversify, um, digress, I should say, off the topic of in the news. Um, another thing that we have in the news is the surprise rise in the number of buy-to-lets despite the attacks on landlords. Now, the number of private rental homes has increased to 18,610 in the last 5 years, defining those suggestions that an exodus of landlords in the wake of change to tax relief, stamp duty, and tenant fees. London is not only home to the largest rental sector, with over 1 million private landlords, but a 6.4% increase in stock in the last 5 years, more than 63,000 homes to meet tenant demand. In the West Midlands, stock levels have climbed by 4.4%, closely followed by East Midlands at 3.9% jump. The Southwest, Wales, and East of England have also seen an increase of the number of private rentals properties within this sector as well. What do you think? I mean, in the Northwest has hit the hardest by reductions of the availability of stock of nearly over 500,000 of private rented homes. 34,000 less than 5 years ago. I mean, that's really ridiculous. I mean, if you're a private landlord, what do you think about your investment portfolio? Do you think you struggled to keep up with it? Did you get rid of your portfolio even because of all these different rules that came in? Or did you just say, you know what, the rules have changed? Yep, I just need to change how I do my investments. In the southeast, the level of privately rented homes again has fallen up to 5.2% during the same time frame of meaning that 36,500 fewer properties are tenanted and have so fewer properties to actually rent out. I think that's what the problem is. There isn't enough stock on the market, and when you're a seasoned investor, you know where to look. You know what kind of deals you can structure and do, and you know how to get your investments and keeping up your portfolio. If you're new to the market, you may struggle with this. You may struggle. Where do I find these elusive properties that as an investor, as somebody I want to be renting out? Where do you find these properties? Now, if you really want to know where you find them, you can join me tonight. I'm running a free workshop to help newbie investors and even seasoned investors. So come along tonight. The link, you can find the invite on Facebook. And if you want to really come, also send me an email or check out our website. You'll see all of our details of events that are coming up over the next few weeks. Every Monday, I run the Savvy Success Method every Monday evening at 6 till 6:45, leaving 15 minutes for Q&A. And it's just a short presentation, and it's in business and in property. So you've got the both realms, and I will help you along to really to help you push your business or even start your business where you want to be. There's lots of really good things coming up. So please feel free to reach out and reach out to our website. You can see at the bottom where you can see all the event links as well. So let's have a look. Where's the quitting despite red tape? Landlords are quitting. A lot of landlords are coming out of the industry simply because of all the red tape and what's going on around us. There's a lot of things going on in the service accommodation realm as well. But I mean, should you quit? I mean, if you're an investor, diversify your portfolio. If you was in buy-to-lets and that's no longer viable, go into HMOs, co-living, dark kitchens, service accommodation. There's a plethora. I know of how many different property strategies. People think when you get into property that you have to have a certain amount of money or you have to go in a particular kind of thing to make money from property. It's one of the oldest traditions to make money from, yet people really struggle to have an understanding of how to get into it and safely. I'm all about safety, and I'm all about not spending too much money, but being ethical about what you're doing and how you're proceeding to do it. When you're buying one property, are you looking to then take out equity? Are you buying below market value? These are the things where people get scuppered with. And if you're a landlord, a lot of people feel that landlords love what they're doing. Some are accidental landlords. They're inherited properties or things like that. So that's an accidental landlord, or they couldn't sell their previous home or needed to move. Then they became landlords. There's so many different reasons why people are investors. And it's for those reasons why there's always opportunities to look at as well. If you've got a landlord that doesn't like managing his properties, you could become a manager for those properties, and a letting agent for those properties. You could become an estate agent for those properties. You could take them on board yourself and manage them, pay the landlord their monthly amount, and you manage the rest, and you can take your amount for yourself. You don't own the asset, but you're making money from the asset. So there's loads of reasons and loads of things you can get into with little or some money. I'm not going to say no money, because you're always going to need money. There's always money transactions happening. I'm not saying it's a large amount, but there is. Those no money down deals that used to be out there. Yes, a lot of people will say they still exist, but I always say you still have to have a few pounds in your pocket, because there always is something you need to pay for. So there's nothing such as a free lunch, as they say. So there's nothing such as a free property. But there is ways that it's minimal amount of money that you have to, expenditure that you would have to do. And I'm kind of a realist, and I like to tell people, hey, you're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but the opportunities are there. It doesn't necessarily have to be your money. That's the difference. So when you're looking at property, does it have to be your money? That's where I can say, no, it doesn't. So long as you've got an idea, so long as you can find the properties and you can get them at a reasonable price and put a deal together, it doesn't have to be that you own it. You could pass that deal on and make money from it that way. So that's a different way of looking at it. And again, if you want information on that, please feel free to reach out. Happy to teach you those kind of strategies. In other news, HMRC and government warned, do not let capital gain tax kill buy-to-let. The finance chief is warning that the threat of possible rises in the capital gain tax should be dismissed by the government to help buy-to-let sector. The chief executive of Octane Capital says the government has tried the hardest to dampen investment in the private rental sector in recent years, with a string of legislation changes around tax relief, stamp duty, and tenant fees, reducing the profitability of a buy-to-let investment. The pandemic has also proven problematic for some landlords who have suffered lengthy void periods due to the factor such as tenant eviction bans and reduction in rental demand across the major cities in particular. But despite all of this, it has stood the test of time. It has stood up and continued to flourish. So every time the government tries to put out something that discourages us landlords, us investors, we're proving that it doesn't matter what you do. If you are going to be going out there and if you're good at what you're doing, you can survive this whole government trying to pull in something else to trip us up as usual. But just be patient and just be thorough with what you are doing. In avenues as well, let me see. Property wins Brits investment poll as best bet for 2022. Nearly 1 in 3 Britain adults think property is the best performing investment in 2022. What's your opinion on this? Do you think property as an asset is the most performing? It says making a pick ahead of cash, stocks, and cryptocurrency. Now, I know property is definitely an asset I love, and that's my number one. But stocks and shares definitely into that, and cryptocurrency definitely into that. I believe in diversity, a diverse portfolio. So, what do you think? Do you think property is the number one, or do you have a different view of that? I know many people invest in cryptocurrency. So, what is your views on that as well? Personal finance website Find a poll polled 2001 British adults and 39,573 adults with the result that Britain was the most likely of any investment in brick and mortar. Some 30% of Britons said property would be the best performing investment this year, well above the global average of 23%. The next most popular pick is cash, 24%. I don't see how the pick of cash, to be quite honest. Yes, I understand we need cash, but investing cash is not making you money. Even if it's sat in a bank, it's not giving you a return on your money at all. The interest that you're gaining on it is pittance. So I don't know why cash came into that. But they said most popular at 24%, followed by stocks at 17%, and cryptocurrency at 15%. I think it's risk more than, I think they've done these percentage based on risk more than it was anything else. Michelle Stevens of Mortgage Specialists at Finders says the survey results suggest rising interest in rates aren't deterring Britons from thinking property is a good investment. More likely to back property over other investments despite the Bank of England's recent rise and change in the bank base rate. The bank has hinted that further interest rate hikes is on the horizon, which could see an end to the house price boom we've witnessed over the past 2 years. Do you think that is ended? Do you think that if they hike up the price, it will, people just say, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. The interest rate's gone too high. I'm not doing that anymore. Who remembers when the interest rates were over 9% or even more? Who remembers going through a property, two recessions where you couldn't move? Big stores were closing down. Property provides stability, Maureen says, amongst other revenues and investments, etc. I agree. I think people will find a way. Yes, Catherine. I think that, Catherine. I also think that people always find a way. If you want to do something, there's always a workaround of it. There's always a different way of looking at it. It may cost you that little bit more, but you still will make that little bit more. Do you understand what I mean? Where we used to buy properties in the 90s, for sort of like your 50s and your 60,000s and your 3 beds and semi-detaches at those prices, you're not getting those prices no more. Those are your now over 200,000 properties. So you have to look at when times move, you move with the times. You find another way, another workaround how to do what you want and what you love in your business. Now, if you're building out a portfolio from scratch and you're a newbie, it's looking at what is current, what is the current strategies, always knowing what strategy suits you as well and how you're going to develop that as well. So, they said bricks and mortar is going to be the UK's number one choice. Oh, well, in fact, it's everyone's investment choice, bricks and mortar. And it's always been my first love as well. I love investing in property. I love what it can do and bring, and also being able to look after people as well. Because when you've got a property, you're housing somebody or you're housing a family, you're giving them a home as well. And I really love the whole essence of being able to provide accommodation for other people. So in Avenue, short lets are getting longer as 28 nights bookings more common. Airbnb says its short let business is back almost to 2019 pre-COVID levels in cities, and it reports many work from home renters are booking much longer stays, which is good news. Um, in a trading statement on its website referring to the worldwide business, it says it's enjoying 40.6 million profit in the fourth quarter of last year. Good news before the full bounce back after the pandemic could be seen. And while the number of nights booked in urban locations, we'll see we're going back to these urban countrysides. People want to get away. Even if you got into service accommodation, people want to get away to the countryside. They want to absorb the fresh air. They want to be part of that environment. It's very relaxing. And everyone knows that. So people are going out now to find different locations outside of the cities, outside of busy towns as well, because they want to relax. And this is what is showing on here as well. Short lets are bouncing back, but people are looking to go urban, go out. Guests aren't just traveling on Airbnb; they are living in on Airbnb. Over the last 2 years, they have seen the average trip length increase by approximately 15%, with stays of more than 7 days now representing nearly half of all goes to night books. Meanwhile, long-term stays of 28 nights or more remain their fastest growing category by trip length and their count of 22% of gross nights. I mean, that's good because I know Airbnb got a bashing in the news for quite some time, and I was really livid for them. And I'm glad to see that they've bounced back. And don't forget, it's a platform that offers opportunities for you to put your short stays on there and that. So, you know, it is a good opportunity to get into service accommodation. So if you're interested in that, start looking into how you can make money from it and look at the areas in which you can invest in as well. So our last news piece is investing in property in Portugal. What do investors need to know? Well, there's a lot of things that investors need to know abroad. And I'm going to be doing a special workshop on our Mondays, how to invest abroad. So when I put it out, I will make sure that the day that I'm doing that, I would highlight it in the news so you can join that workshop. But Portugal continues to be one of the most popular destinations for Brits to holiday and have a second home, thanks to its excellent weather, high levels of safety, and its relaxed, often slow-paced way of life. What do you think of Portugal? I love Portugal. That's where I first learned how to ride horses when I was in Portugal, and I loved it. Was just lovely riding a horse. Um, and being out amongst the trees and being on that horse, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. And I've always loved Portugal, going back there and holidaying with my family. Have you ever been to Portugal? And if you have, what do you think of it? And what do you think about owning a home there as well? Don't forget, if you're on the replay, make sure you put in hashtag replay so that I know it was on the replay that you were. But from an investment point of view, what does it offer? Um, Idle Homes Portugal, Chris White, chairman and founder of the firm and mortgage advising company, says, what does Portugal have to offer investors in terms of property types and potential yields? There are many properties and apartments, apparently, to villas to entice investors in potential yields, dependent on the type of property, area, facilities available, etc. Some investors only buy properties where they can rent it out the whole year. Others only look to rent it out for a specific number of weeks per year. So the whole year will be like our normal rental properties over here, and short rentals will be like your service accommodation. So Airbnb platform to put your service accommodations on. That's where you'd book them. So it's a home from home kind of scenario. Currently, they say Lagos is a very popular area to invest in. This is in Portugal, by the way. An example is Santa Maria, two apartments, which are 2 minutes drive from the beach, are attracting investors who want to rent their property out for many weeks as possible in the year, usually 25 to 30. Yields can vary from 20,000 euros to 28,000 euros, depending on the number of bedrooms and views. The town offers excellent values with a block of 4 apartments costing around 675,000 euros. The combination of apartments, 2 studios, a 1 bedroom, and 4 bedroom provides plenty of potential earnings uh, year round and income, taking the average of earning potential really far. This is really good news, and I'm going to do this in 2 parts with our Portugal piece because I really want people to get an understanding of how do you invest abroad. How do you get into property abroad? A lot of people back in the day was investing in Spain. Do you remember that influx of people investing in Spain? And there was other countries. We used to have some massive exhibitions over here in the UK where we used to go and see what properties were available, where they were building. It was off plan, and there was a lot of things that was good about it and negative about it. But a lot of people got into international investments with those big exhibitions that we used to have up in London. Who remembers going to them? I mean, I practically went to all of them, to be honest. I was really into going to exhibitions, looking at different properties that I can buy, buying off plans, selling before they were developed, and making money from that way. There were so many strategies that were out then. There were so many mortgage products. There were so many different ways that you could do business back in those days. Nowadays, it's very much linear and straightforward. However, there is all the different legislation. There is all the different laws that have come in, the changes that have happened over the years. And so long as you understand them and you know what you're doing, there's still money and always will be money in property. It cannot fail. In 7 years, you buy property today, in 7 years, it goes up. It's just that revolving door. It always will grow in equity. You have a property where you've got money in it. That's where your saving is. But you'll see that saving pot probably double in some instances in 7 years. So always look at an investment as an investment for the future. And if you're at a good age now where you can look at it to build a retirement pot, please do that. Start thinking of property as investing into for your retirement or leaving a legacy. Many people want to leave a legacy for their family. And what legacy are you looking to leave? Are you looking to leave a good legacy or portfolio or whatever assets that you have? But have you managed to do it via property, as I have? And that's why I love teaching how to get into property. So again, if you're interested in learning from me and my 30 plus years of experience in investing, also in building out businesses as well. I'm not just a property coach, I'm also a business coach. I've started businesses from scratch. I've started businesses with zero funding as well. So I understand the ins and outs and the steps that people need. And not only that, the baby steps or the hand holding people may need as well. In business, we tend to feel that it should be rushed, and people come in and don't understand how people work or understand themselves. I like to take my time and teach and make sure that people feel comfortable in sharing, and make sure people feel comfortable in how they're learning something. I'm dyslexic, so I know how difficult it can be to learn things all at once. They want it broken down, as I do. And that's the beauty of education in property or even in business, is understanding what you want and how you want it delivered. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing you different news items in the business realm as well. We have a podcast that we have going out each and every week on a Friday. The Savvy Investor Show. Catch us on Apple, Spotify, and all the other platforms. We're always there. We have our workshops on Monday, and there's other specials that I would always put on. So just keep an eye out. I've enjoyed sharing in the news, and thank you so much for your interactions this morning. It's been such a pleasure having you on here and interacting with you. And I hope we do get our country properties one day. I love the country and I will always visit it. Living there may be a different thing, but I definitely will visit it. So if you're going to join us tonight, please look for the link on Facebook. It is there in our events page. You would see it's on our website. Go there and have a look at what we're doing over the next coming weeks as well. And if you want any information from me, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to, do a strategy call with you. They are free. Just book on my website. You can book in my calendar to just have a chat and just to see where you're at, because you may not even know where you're at the moment. I just want some advice on what you think you can do, and I'm happy to oblige with that. You have a blessed week. I hope we're supposed to be having still some little storms. Be safe with that. Make sure you batten down everything. But thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Have a great and wonderful week. Catch you next week, 8 a.m. with Savvy Sapphire on In the News. Bye for now.